Okay, get this. The world of AI, it's exploding, right?
Absolutely.
And it's pushing data transfer speeds, pushing them to the limit.
He really is.
We've all heard about fiber optics, right? That's like the answer for like lightning fast connections. But what if I told you there's another solution on the horizon?
I'm intrigued.
You might be surprised to hear that it's souped up copper cables we're talking about.
Copper. Right.
Yeah, and a company called Spectra7 Microsystems. They are leading the charge with what they call active copper cable technology, or ACC.
So they're giving copper a run for its money, huh? How's that even work?
That's the really cool part. So Spectra7, what they're doing is they're bridging the gap between the traditional copper and the speed that you get with fiber optics.
Okay.
They're designing these high-performance analog semiconductors that live right inside those copper cables.
So it's not just your grandpa's copper wire anymore.
Nope, not at all. This is giving your data a first-class ticket, but on a familiar route, if that makes sense.
I like that analogy. I mean, the need for this kind of technology, it's growing so fast. And all of AI's just massive data requirements are putting pressure on everything we have. Traditional copper cables, the passive ones, they just can't keep up, especially over longer distances.
Totally. It's like, have you ever tried to fill up a swimming pool with a garden hose?
Yeah, takes a while.
It takes forever. You need like a much bigger pipe, right, to get that job done quickly and efficiently. That's where Spectra7's ACCs come in. Like, they're giving you a way to upgrade that garden hose.
Instead of ripping the whole system out.
Without having to rip the whole thing out, yeah.
I see. So you're getting the power and the reach.
Yeah.
But in a way that's more sustainable, right?
Yes, exactly. ACCs provide that, kind of like that trifecta. Low power consumption.
Okay.
Low latency, meaning like minimal delay. And impressive performance.
So they're kind of hitting all the marks.
They are, and they can even achieve a reach similar to fiber optics, but by using a fraction of the power.
Now that's impressive.
We're not talking about small differences here. At 1.6 terabit data rates, Spectra7's ACCs, they use just 4 watts per cable.
Just 4.
4. Active electrical cables, 35 watts. And over 50 watts for optical cables. So you're looking at potentially huge differences in energy costs, especially if you're talking about a large data center.
Absolutely. And what I find really interesting is that Spectra7's not just focusing on data centers, are they? I mean, they're applying this technology to a lot of different fields.
That's what I find so interesting about this company. So yeah, their reach goes way beyond just those like server farms. Think consumer electronics, like Sony's PlayStation VR2 headset.
Oh, right, the VR headsets.
That's them. Spectra7's chips are what allow for those lightweight and comfortable cables that you see with VR headsets. They're delivering this high-quality data without weighing you down while you're gaming.
That's really cool.
And then, obviously, the world of AI supercomputing.
Right. Can't forget about that.
That's where they're poised to be like a major player as demand increases for even faster data transfer.
Speaking of AI supercomputing, there's this really fascinating case study that highlights like the growing adoption of active copper technology. NVIDIA, the leader in AI hardware, they're already using this approach in their high-powered GPU systems.
NVIDIA is using active copper. That's huge.
It is, and the reasons they give for adopting it are right in line with everything we've been talking about. Low power consumption, minimal latency, and cost effectiveness. They need those systems to be operating super smoothly and efficiently, and active copper delivers.
It's pretty exciting to see that, like, even the biggest companies are recognizing the potential of this technology.
Yeah.
But it's not all, like, smooth sailing, right? I mean, they're facing competition.
Of course. I mean, as data centers evolve and the demand for higher density increases, you're going to have more and more challenges popping up.
Like what?
Just think about it this way. You're trying to cram more and more data through a smaller and smaller space.
So it's like trying to thread a needle with a huge rope.
Exactly. But Spectra7, they have this really clever answer for that challenge. Their patented gauge changer technology. What it does is it allows them to use thinner gauge cables without sacrificing reach or performance.
So they're able to shrink that rope without losing any of its strength so they can fit it through that tiny needle's eye.
Exactly.
It's pretty remarkable when you think about it.
It is. And there's this specific type of connector called the OSFP-XD.
Okay.
This is where the gauge changer technology is becoming super important.
Got it.
Traditional passive copper cables, they're hitting their limits. And even the competing active electrical cable technology, or AEC, it's struggling to keep up.
Oh, so this is like a head-to-head battle.
It is. And the biggest competitor in the AEC space is a company called Credo. They've gained a lot of ground.
So they're like the Goliath?
Yeah, you could say that.
And where does that leave Spectra7, our David?
Spectra7's definitely the underdog here. But they have a couple of advantages. Their ACCs offer the same reach as passive copper, but with significantly lower power consumption and latency compared to Credo's AEC solution.
So lower power, faster speeds, less delay. Sounds like Spectra7 has a fighting chance here.
They do.
But, being a smaller company, they must face some hurdles, right? I mean, going up against these giants.
Of course. They are competing with some of the biggest companies in the industry. And like you said, they were a little late to the 100 GBPs market, which gave competitors a bit of a head start. But Spectra7's now focusing on developing those faster 200 GBPs and 400 GBP solutions.
So they're aiming to jump ahead by focusing on the next generation of speed.
Exactly.
I like the ambition.
And they've got another potential advantage. Remember the OSFP-XD connector we talked about? If they can land contracts with some of those major players in the data center world, the hyperscalers,
Yeah.
that could be huge for them.
It all sounds really promising.
Yeah.
But can they actually compete financially with these giants?
Well, they recently raised $10 million in funding. And they have a pretty consistent revenue stream of around $10 million per year. It's not a ton, but it gives them a solid foundation.
And here's the thing. The market for ACCs is predicted to just explode, reaching a staggering $1 billion in 2028.
Wow.
That's a massive opportunity for a company like Spectra7.
It is. And their low overhead, thanks to their small team and their use of outsourced manufacturing, gives them a level of agility that those bigger companies don't have.
So we've got a small team, streamlined operations, huge market opportunity. Sounds like they're in a pretty good position to really make an impact.
Yeah, I think so. They've got a lot going for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is, that whole David and Goliath story.
I love that.
Playing out in the tech world.
So to recap, we're learning about Spectra7 microsystems and their active copper cable technology, or ACC. It's an elegant solution, I think, to this growing demand for faster and more efficient data transfer.
Totally.
Especially in the field of AI.
Right, exactly. And as we've seen, ACCs offer that sweet spot, that balance between traditional copper and fiber optics.
Yeah.
You get the best of both worlds, low power consumption, that low latency, and it can really reach pretty far.
And we even touched on how Spectra7 is going head-to-head with these big companies using their gauge changer technology to overcome these physical limitations, right? And the projections, they show the market for ECCs could reach $1 billion by 2028.
Yeah, huge potential.
Now, I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier.
Sure.
You said that AI is creating essentially 3 separate networks within a data center. Can you break that down for our listener?
Absolutely. So think about it this way. You have your traditional front-end network. That handles all the general data flow within a data center.
Okay.
But AI is adding 2 more networks on top of that.
Yeah.
Scale out and scale up.
Okay, so scale out and scale up, those sound a little technical.
Yeah.
Can you explain that in a way that our listeners can understand?
Sure, of course. So imagine you've got a team of these incredibly powerful computers all working together on a single problem.
Okay.
Scale up is like giving each member of that team a massive boost in their processing power.
Okay.
It's about maximizing the performance within that single unit.
So it's like giving them the best tools and resources.
Exactly. Now, scale out is about connecting multiple units of those powerful computers together. So you're expanding the network's reach.
Right.
And you're creating this massive interconnected system.
So it's like taking multiple teams of those super-powered computers and having them all work together on this even bigger, more complex problem.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay.
And here's the key takeaway. The demands on these back-end networks, both scale out and scale up, they're significantly greater than on the traditional front-end network.
Like how much greater are we talking?
We're talking 10 times the bandwidth for scale out.
Wow.
And 100 times the bandwidth for scale up.
That's a lot of bandwidth.
It is. It's no wonder that traditional copper cables are struggling to handle this new reality.
So this is where Spectra7's technology really shines.
Exactly. And as AI continues to evolve,
Yeah.
that need for even faster, more efficient data transfer is just going to keep growing.
Yeah, it seems like Spectra7 is really well positioned to meet those demands.
They are. They're making a big push in that direction.
And what about the OSFP-XD connector? You mentioned that earlier.
Right. If they can secure contracts with those hyperscalers, that could be a game changer.
It's like scoring the winning goal in the last few seconds of a game.
Exactly.
But it's not just them out there, right? They have competition.
They do. They're facing some really fierce competition from companies like Credo, who are also pushing the boundaries of data transfer technology.
So it's a battle for the future of AI infrastructure?
You could say that.
And Spectra7 is right there in the thick of it.
Yeah, they're fighting to make their mark, for sure.
Yeah. You know, there's one more interesting aspect to Spectra7's story that I want to touch on.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
And it's their unique approach to semiconductor design.
Ah, yes. The whole analog versus digital thing.
That's the one.
Fascinating part of their strategy.
I've heard a bit about it. I'm not totally clear on all the details.
Yeah.
Can you kind of fill us in on what makes Spectra7's approach unique?
So most of Spectra7's competitors, including Credo, they rely on digital signal processing, or DSP.
Okay.
Now, it's a very powerful approach, but it tends to be very energy intensive, and it can introduce latency.
So it's kind of like, I don't know, using a sledgehammer to open a walnut.
You could say that.
It gets the job done.
Yeah, maybe not the most elegant solution.
And that's so elegant.
Now, Spectra7, on the other hand, they've decided to stick with analog signal processing.
Analog. Really, isn't that kind of old school?
It might seem that way.
Like using a record player when everyone's streaming music.
I know, right?
Yeah.
But hear me out. There are some very real advantages to using analog in this particular case.
I'm all ears.
Okay, so first of all, analog processing is just inherently more energy efficient than digital.
Okay.
You can achieve the same result, but you use less power.
So it's like choosing a fuel-efficient car over an SUV.
Perfect analogy.
Yeah.
When you're talking about these data centers that use massive amounts of energy, any kind of efficiency gain, it can make a huge difference in their operating costs.
Yeah, it all adds up.
Big time. And then there's the latency issue. Analog processing introduces less of it,
Okay.
which is crucial for those high-speed AI applications that are super time sensitive.
Got it.
The signals can just move more freely without being bogged down by these complex digital conversions.
So like taking the express train versus the local.
Exactly.
With less stops.
Fewer delays.
Yeah.
And then there's another benefit that, people may not even realize. Cost.
Okay.
Analog chips are just generally less expensive to manufacture than digital ones.
Really? So they're more efficient, faster, cheaper. What's the downside?
Well, analog design, it can be more complex, and it requires a higher level of expertise. That might explain why more companies haven't really gone down this path.
So Spectra7's kind of like going against the grain a little bit.
Yeah, you'd say that.
Betting on this underdog technology.
They are. And that takes guts.
It does, but they found this hidden treasure that everybody else overlooked.
They might have.
But now the question is, can they convince the world that this is the way to go, that analog is the future?
That's the big question. It's going to require some really strong leadership, smart marketing, and, let's be honest, maybe a little bit of luck.
Well, they've shown that they're not afraid of a challenge.
That's for sure.
Let's shift gears for a second.
Right.
Talk about some of the challenges that Spectra7 might face as they grow and compete.
Sure.
You mentioned earlier that they were a little late to that 100 GBPs game.
Right.
How much of a setback was that for them?
I mean, it definitely gave competitors like Credo a chance to, get established, build relationships with those major players. But the thing is, the data transfer landscape, it's constantly evolving.
So there's always a new opportunity on the horizon.
Exactly. Spectra7's focused on developing those faster solutions, 200 GBPs and 400 GBPs.
Right.
That gives them a chance to catch up and maybe even surpass the competition.
So they may be playing catch up, but they're still very much in the game.
Oh, absolutely.
What else should we be paying attention to?
I think those strategic partnerships will be crucial. Like if they can land a major contract with a hyperscaler, that would be huge.
It'd be like, I keep going back to sports analogies.
Okay, I like them.
It's like winning the championship,
Big win.
in the last second.
It would be.
Yeah, it would be amazing.
And I think their financial situation, it's something to keep an eye on as well. They've got some capital now, but they'll need to manage it very carefully as they, develop their technology and marketing and everything.
So it's a balance between innovation, partnerships, and financial prudence.
Exactly. And all of this is happening against the backdrop of this rapid technological change where the only constant is change.
It really is. It's fascinating to see how a company like Spectra7, with their willingness to innovate and to take risks.
Yeah.
It's challenging the way we think about data transfer.
So pushing the boundaries, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Making us rethink what's possible.
We covered a lot of ground.
We have.
But I have a feeling we've only just scratched the surface of the Spectra7 story.
I think so, too.
It's a company that's definitely worth keeping an eye on.
I agree.
In the coming years.
Absolutely.
It's amazing to think that a company like, as small as Spectra7 can really shake things up.
Yep.
Make us rethink, everything we thought we knew about data transfer.
It's true. What Spectra7 is doing, it really could be a paradigm shift in how we think about data transfer. We just assume that faster speeds automatically means more complex, power-hungry solutions.
Right. We've been talking about fiber optics.
Exactly.
It's fast, but...
It's expensive.
Yeah, and it can be overkill, right?
For sure.
For certain applications.
Totally. And Spectra7 is challenging that assumption. They're showing that you can have those blazing fast speeds without sacrificing efficiency or affordability.
It's like they're saying, hey, we can build you a race car that gets great gas mileage and fits in your garage.
I like that.
And this new way of thinking, it could impact way more than just data centers, right?
So
Think about consumer electronics, telecom, all of it.
So this is about more than just cables and connectors.
It is.
It's really about reimagining data transfer in general. Exactly. And that's what's so interesting about Spectra7. They're not just making a product.
Right.
They're really changing how we think about data transfer, the whole approach.
They're drawing this new roadmap for the future of data.
That's a great way to put it.
And it's so cool to think about where it could lead.
It is. And I think it's important for people to really understand the broader implications of this.
Yeah.
This isn't just for tech enthusiasts. This tech has the potential to reshape the whole digital landscape.
So we're not just talking about faster downloads,
right?
Smoother streaming.
This is bigger than that.
Yeah.
We're talking about innovations that we can't even imagine yet.
Think about the future of AI. Right.
Exactly.
As data transfer gets faster, more efficient, more affordable, the possibilities for AI are endless.
Limitless.
Yeah.
It's like we're removing the roadblocks that have been holding AI back.
Yeah.
And allowing it to reach its full potential.
And that potential goes way beyond the tech world.
Absolutely.
Right.
Health,
education, transportation,
manufacturing, everything.
Pretty much everything.
Yeah, every aspect of our lives.
So if Spectra7 is successful, it could actually impact the global economy.
It's a real possibility.
Yeah.
And it highlights why it's so important to be aware of companies like this.
Yeah.
These are innovators who challenge the status quo, and they're pushing boundaries.
As we wrap up this deep dive into Spectra7 and their active copper cable technology, I think let's leave our listener with something to think about.
Okay.
What do you think?
Will Spectra7 be able to capitalize on this opportunity with the growth of AI and all these data-intensive applications? I mean, that's the big question.
That's the question.
Right. And their success hinges on whether they can get those key partnerships.
Yeah.
Navigate the global markets, stay ahead of the curve, technologically speaking.
That's a big challenge.
It is. It is. But they're ambitious.
They are. And, I'm really excited to see what the future holds for Spectra7. And really, for the world of data transfer as a whole.
It's a fascinating space to watch.
It is. It's incredible to me how human ingenuity keeps finding these new and innovative ways to move data faster, further, more efficiently.
It really is. Who knows what we'll come up with next?
And that's the beauty of technology. It is
journey.
Always evolving.
Yeah.
A never-ending journey of discovery.
So well said. On that note of boundless possibility, let's wrap up today's deep dive.
Sounds good.
Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep pushing the boundaries of your own knowledge.
Couldn't have said it better myself.